loud.
You don't always project.
I remember, well, yes, but I remember one time someone was like, not here, was like, I was calling for you. Why didn't you hear me? They were just not paying attention. They're like, oh, well, your voice doesn't really carry. And I was like, that's just not true.
So we are now live, right?
Yep, we are.
Okay, Councilor Andrade, can you hear us okay?
Sure can.
Great. Excellent. Well, thank you all for being here today. I'm making sure that I have everything in order. For tonight's City Council meeting for February 12th, 2024. And first we're going to start with the Urban Renewal Agency. And we'll call that meeting to order. Can we get started with a roll call?
Oh, sorry. Yes. Mayor Jones.
I'm here.
Councilor Andrade.
Present.
Councilor Crocker. Here. Councilor Causey. Here. Councilor Lehman. Councilor McMorrin.
Here.
Councilor Nielsen. Here.
Excellent. Thank you for that. And the first order of business for the Urban Renewal Agency is to approve the minutes. And I would welcome a motion to approve the minutes from June 12th, 2023.
So moved. And I'll second it.
Excellent. So we have a motion made by Councilor Causey and seconded by, was that Councilor Nielsen?
Yes.
Thank you. Any further discussion? Seeing or hearing none, all in favor, please raise your hand and say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Any opposed? Hearing none, motion carries unanimously. First and only other order of business is the appointment of our 2024-2025 budget officer. And Chris, would you like to discuss this?
Did we volunteer to be the budget officer? The motion to nominate Mike Mrzinski.
I move the Urban Renewal Agency appoint Finance Director Mike Mrzinski as a 2024-2025 budget officer under the supervision of the city manager.
Second.
Excellent. So we had a motion made by Councilor Causey and seconded by Councilor McMorrin. Any further discussion? Okay, all in favor of moving forward with Mike as our new or as our budget officer, please raise your hand and say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay, any opposed? Please raise your hand and say nay. And thank you for that. Motion carries unanimously. And with that, we are going to conclude the meeting of the Urban Renewal Agency. So with that, we'll adjourn and open the City Council meeting for February 12th, 2024. And first thing we'll do is open with a roll call.
Mayor Jones.
I am here.
Councilor Andrade.
Present.
Councilor Crocker. Here. Councilor Causey. Here. Councilor Lehman. Councilor McMorrin.
Here.
Councilor Nielsen. Here.
Okay. Excellent. Okay, so first order of business is we have a proclamation 24-2 declaring Black History Month. And are there any, we haven't actually passed this. Do I have a motion to approve so that we can pass resolution 2402?
So moved.
Thank you. Do I have a second? Do I have a second?
And it,
What?
Counselor McMorrin seconded it.
Okay, sorry, I didn't hear that. Okay,
I think the audio's cutting out sometimes when there's multiple
got it.
people talking.
Thank you. Okay, so we have a motion made by Councilor Andrade, seconded by Councilor McMorrin. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor, please raise your hand and say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. And Councilor Andrade, would you be interested in reading the proclamation?
Sounds good to me.
Thank you.
City of Philomath Resolution 24-02, proclaiming February 2024 to be Black History Month in the City of Philomath. Whereas we honor Black history by acknowledging past injustices while seeking a more inclusive, equitable, and just path forward. And whereas the first of Oregon's exclusion laws, adopted in 1844, mandated that Black Oregonians would be publicly whipped every 6 months until they departed. And whereas the Oregon Constitution of 1857 prohibited Black Oregonians from owning real estate, making contracts, voting, or using the legal system. And whereas the Federal Donation Land Act of 1850 granted free land in Oregon exclusively to white settlers, creating a white land-owning class that continues to hold great privilege and power in Oregon to this day. And whereas these and other racist laws and policies sent messages that Black Oregonians were not welcome. And whereas this foundation in racist policies continues to have implications for Black people who visit or reside in the state of Oregon. And whereas many Black people have made Oregon and the city of Philomath their home and have made significant contributions to this state and our community, including the donation of lands for Mount Union Cemetery by Mr. Reuben Shipley in 1861. And whereas Black people are valued and vital members of the Philomath community, and whereas the Philomath City Council is committed to creating a community where all who come here can feel safe and welcome. And whereas the Philomath City Council is committed to moving forward towards dismantling and transforming unjust and racist systems where they persist. Now, therefore, be it resolved that we, the City Council and Inclusivity Committee of the City of Philomath, Oregon, hereby proclaim the month of February to be Black History Month in the City of Philomath, and be it further resolved that we reaffirm that racial discrimination, hatred, and white supremacy have no place in the City of Philomath or our government. And be it further resolved that we call on the people of our community to join us in learning about the history of Black people in Oregon and in Philomath, and in combating racism wherever it is found. Passed by the City Council this 12th day of February 2024, and approved by the Mayor this 12th day of February 2024.
Thank you so much for that, Councilor Andrade. I really appreciate it. Okay. And I was having visual, I didn't have a video for a little bit, but now I do on the council chambers. So just wanted to recognize that. Okay, so next item. Oh, and I also want to mention I am on the East Coast right now, so it's 10 p.m. I would love not to go past midnight if we don't have to. So just let's think about that. Okay, so first we have public comment. Do we have anybody present for public comment?
No.
We don't. Brad Pankell is here, but I think he may want to answer questions or address the council during later on the agenda when we come talking about loan and grant programs.
Got it. Okay, thank you. So then, since nobody is present for public comment, I would then welcome, we're going to move on to the consent agenda. And I'd welcome a motion if there is one. Councillor Kazi.
I move to approve the consent agenda as presented.
Thank you. Do I have a second?
I'll second that.
So we have a motion made by Councillor Kazi, seconded by Councillor Nielsen. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor, please raise your hand and say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Seeing none, all motion carries unanimously. Thank you for that. Next, and on that consent agenda was the minutes from January 8th, January 22nd, the budget calendar, and the appointment of the fiscal year 2024 budget officer. So next on the agenda is the OLCC permit application for Spearhunter wines. Chris, you want to walk us through this?
So anytime we get anybody getting licensed with OLCC, they're required to come to the city as part of that approval process. This new winery, Spearhead Wines LLC, they have a home office that's located here in Philomath, and so as part of that, they're required by OLCC to go through this process, do the background check, and get approved for that place of business. This will not be for retail sales. They're not going to be throwing tasting events or anything like that there. It's really just their home office. But again, OLCC requires them to still register that as a place of business because it's a winery. So we have reached out, and they will be submitting a home occupation permit, which is something we require of anybody who's doing any type of business out of their home. And so that'll be forthcoming. It's an administrative approval. It doesn't come to the city council. So we'll just approve that administratively. The OLCC requires that this approval will come to the approval. Lieutenant Gursky's here. Police department did some background, so he can answer any specific questions you've got. But otherwise, everything checked out. Looks good. We're happy to have another business in town.
Okay, I see a hand up by Councilor Nielsen.
Any parking issues with that home office thing in that area where it's located? They didn't seem to have a lot of people coming and going, people parking. And
the home occupation permit allows for one customer at a time, and it also puts a limit on the total number per week. And I don't remember off the top of my head, but it's pretty constrained.
yeah.
Okay, and Councillor Crocker.
Drove by it today, and it sounds like some of the rest of you have. It's just a duplex on the corner in a residential area, and that just seems odd to me that we would call that a business in a residential area. Is there any zoning problems with that?
It's a home business, so they're running their office out of there, taking phone calls, making payments, invoices, just like a home office. But because that's the business registration, a lot of these we don't even hear about, and we don't find out about them. They don't do a home occupation permit. And if it was anything other than alcohol or firearms, we probably wouldn't know about it. The ones that we do hear about is if they're doing a hair salon or something like that, where they're going to have customers coming and going, and either they want to be upfront with the neighbors about what's happening, or a neighbor's complained about it, and then we've reached out and said, hey, there's some limitations on home occupations and what you can and can't do. Out in the front yard, there's some very specific things you can't do. Again, this is really only coming to the forefront because it's related to firearms or alcohol. In this case, it's alcohol with OLCC. But I don't anticipate any issues there. Again, no, so all those zoning ordinances still apply, even if it's a home occupation.
Thank you. Councilor Moore.
Where will the wine actually be made?
I don't know. Lieutenant Gursky, did you look at that?
Yeah, look at another location at Corvallis.
Okay, thank you. Councilor Kazi.
Give us an example of what would be disqualifying information. What would
Felony convictions and things of that nature. They're on probation.
I'm sorry, can you repeat that? We can't hear you on Zoom.
I was looking at their running a background background check on their criminal history to see if there was any disqualifying convictions, and then also if they had any prohibitions with regards to possessing alcohol for probation violations or things of that nature.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And there were none? Is that what I heard?
That's correct.
Thank you. Counselor Crocker?
Have the neighbors been notified? Are they aware that this is going to be a home business? Do they get any voice in this at all?
They don't. We don't do a specific notice to neighbors. Yeah, these are pretty administrative. There's enough conditions and restraints on them that they're not supposed to have an adverse impact on the neighbors.
My parents live like across the street. I could text them really quick.
Oh, I mean, in my own neighborhood, I've had to approve different things in my neighborhood by other people, so I just assumed that maybe they would want to also.
Date permit. So it's a check-in with the city, really.
Just letting us know.
Background check, yeah. We could object.
Counselor Andrade? Oh, sorry. Counselor Andrade?
Oh, I was waiting for Council Brewer to finish.
I think he did.
Well then, I guess my question, to me, I didn't see anything wrong with it. My impression is that their business is being done there, but it doesn't sound like there will really be any customers or shipping of things or anything like that. It's more of like, you know, working remotely. To that point, I move to recommend approval to OLCC of the liquor license application for Spearhunter Wines LLC.
Thank you. So we have a motion made by Counselor Andrade, and I see a second by Counselor McMorrin. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor, please raise your hand and say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries unanimously. Thank you very much. Okay, next on the docket is the community survey results, which is really information that's intended that we don't need to go into too much detail today, but that is intended to inform us when we have our next conversation during the work session for the strategic planning session at the next council meeting. Is that correct, Chris?
Yeah, that's correct. And Chelsea, I do want to acknowledge, did a lot of work on this, so she might speak just a little bit, give a summary on what's been provided to the council.
Sure.
Yes, so I included the full survey results for you. We did try to make them a little bit more digestible for everyone, so they weren't too technical and you could get information out of them. We had 342 responses. 245 noted they lived within the city limits of Philomath. We feel that that's a good response for, a first survey. These aren't always responded to with a huge amount that you would think, but we felt that that was a good solid response. And overall, what we saw were things that we already are working on addressing, some things that are in the strategic plan that are a focus, or things that we could put in the strategic plan. So as Chris and Chaz said, we wanted to give you this for information so that you can look ahead to our next meeting and see if there are focus areas that you want to focus on, and reach out to me or Chris if you have any questions about it ahead of time. We also included an infographic so that we can post that on the website and give people something pretty to look at rather than all the technical data.
Did you do the infographic? Yeah. It's nice. Very, very well done.
Sorry, I muted myself. Counselor Kazi.
Thank you. I know there was a question about the survey being posted. Is the survey posted? Survey results.
We have not put it on the website yet. We wanted to bring it here, and then tomorrow we can post the infographic and the results on the website. Yep, and we will also be doing a little blurb about it in the next newsletter, in the March newsletter, so that people out in the public can know that they can come look at the website to see the results.
Good.
Excellent. Thank you. Appreciate that. Councilor Andrade?
Yeah, I talked to a couple people in the community, and they're the two big things that I heard were thank you for publishing the results of the survey in the meeting packet, and to continue to keep doing that, and for going to do that on the website, and also a huge request to send physical notifications to every Philomath household whenever there is an upcoming or ongoing survey in particular, because I the people I heard from, things get lost a lot more electronically, or they processing happens better over when you have like a physical copy. And so for the sake of accessibility, I wanted to bring that up, and highly agree, because they were disappointed that that the people uh, with who didn't see it or couldn't process, like it would be great to do that from now on.
And Chris, was that published in the newsletter? Is that correct? Or Chelsea?
Yeah, it was online and on the city newsletter.
Wasn't it on the notice, the reader board as well?
Yeah, but that's not a physical paper copy. That's my point, is that like if we get paper notices at our houses for certain things, why can't we also do it for surveys? Because surveys are important. We want to hear from people. We want to hear from our community members. And so if we're going to get something about like the storm drains, or, like, why can't we also get something about surveys where we want to hear from people? Because sometimes you just don't see those things online.
No, I'm
And you
sorry.
get,
I did get it I got it in my water bill at my house
yeah, but not
in the
everyone
mail.
gets them. And if you have a so like there are certain people who live with roommates, like I live with roommates, and not everyone always gets to see the email or
Okay.
or something like that. So
Okay, thank you very much. Any further discussion on this point? Councilor McMorrin.
No, we'll talk about it more. God, I'm sorry. Next week, but I just wanted to say overall, I was very actually encouraged by this because it feels like overall people are pretty satisfied, and the things they're not satisfied with were not surprising, which is reassuring. Like, there wasn't anything in here where I was like, oh my God, really? It was like, yeah, I know we could do better with that. So I want to thank you all for putting this together, especially for sort of the first of this type of survey. And I know there are probably ways we can continue to improve it in the future and improve our outreach, but I'm really pleased with the fact that we did this, and pleasantly surprised with how pleased I am with what people had to say. So thank you.
Thank you, Councilor McMorrin. Appreciate that. And we're going to go ahead and move on to the next agenda item. And actually, since we have someone in the audience that's waiting for this financing conversation, why don't we just bump that up to the front? And just in case they don't have to stay beyond their time necessary. Does that sound okay? Chris, do you want to talk about Rodeo Arena financing?
Sure. So the first one that was in the packet that you was for authorization to apply for a loan so that we can get the rest of the funds needed to finish out this project this year. There's a lot of background information in there, so I'm starting to throw the ordinance stuff. There's a lot of background information in there about where we've come so far and where we're at in the funding. But it does look like there's going to be a little bit of a gap. We're looking to go out with the RFP for this project at the end of the month. It's a design build RFP, which is a little different. Typically, you're going to pay for all the design to get done first, know exactly what you're building, and then you put that out for a bid on what somebody will charge you to build whatever it is that design is. In this case, we're maybe 90% design, just to throw a rough number out there, but there's a little bit of detail that still needs to be done. depending on some final decisions and in part depend on how much funding is raised and what things look like. So that final bit of design work still needs to be done, and so we won't be able to know exactly what the cost of the project is going to be until we've awarded a contractor that's going to bid on how much they're going to charge us to do that initial design work for us. And then we're going to look at qualifications and past projects and other things like that to look at their ability to perform and actually construct the grandstands and oversee the lighting and all of the rest of the project. So again, a little bit different RFP. With that RFP going out there, my goal is to have as much of the funding secured as possible before the RFP goes out. Because as a contractor, we're going to be much more likely to get contractor to bid on this job if they know that the funds are already there than if we hope that the funds are going to be there and, you know, within the next 3 to 6 months, maybe they will be, maybe they won't be. You may have a little bit more hesitancy on the part of some contractors to bid on that job. So we're really
Chris,
close.
can I just remind Councilor Andrade, just in case they don't know, that you sent the supplemental email. I just want to make sure that everybody knew
I'll
that.
touch on that. Yeah, and I will touch on that. Yeah. So we're close enough that again we can look at doing a loan. We've reached out to government capital. These are the types of projects that they fund. They've done a lot of work in Oregon and throughout the rest of the country, and we've got the resolution put together. I will note that the original resolution that they'd sent over had some language in there that the city attorney wasn't quite comfortable with, so we did reach out to some legal counsel that does language and bonding and loans and debt payment, and so she helped draft the new resolution that I emailed out to you earlier today, and that I don't think I printed a hard copy of that one actually, so that's what I emailed off. Sorry, I don't have a hard copy of that one in front of me. Similar language, actually a little bit more broad language, a little more open, but essentially the same authorization, which is authorizing the city manager at the time necessary to move forward and borrow loans as much as necessary up to the $500,000 in order to have the funds needed to complete the project. So that's kind of this first agenda item topic. The second, just for simplicity, but I think it's worth a conversation before we go with just this item alone. The second agenda item was for a request to the city council to direct me to apply for a local government grant program through the state. I sent a link to an article that was published not too long ago talking about the additional lottery funds that the state has received. And apparently there's a trigger, as it noted in the article, once $112 million or more comes into this program, then there's a trigger within the program that then requires the program essentially double or go from 12% to 25%, more than double the amount of funding that's available. So this year is a unique year in that there's more than twice as much funding available to municipalities and counties that are applying for these grant funds. So the timing seems great. We've got a really strong project that's a huge community project. We've got a lot of private support for the project already. There's already a lot of the funding in place, and I think that we can make a really strong application for this grant moving forward, which would alleviate the need to have to go out for the loan, right? So it's not necessarily both. It would be, let's do the loan if we're comfortable with that and do the agreement with the Frolic to repay, or let's apply for the grant, and if we get the grant, then we don't have to do the loan options. So cases, we're still looking to the Frolic and Rodeo to come up with that. Well, in the first case anyway, we're still looking to the Frolic and Rodeo to come up with the equivalent of that $500,000, which was the match of the 1.9. If we go for the grant, I would presume that the council would be comfortable with not putting additional burden on the Frolic and Rodeo, and we would just accept that grant money and we would do the project. A couple of different options on the table. I apologize for not presenting the grant as part of the entire packet. That really came to me over the weekend through a couple of emails that I didn't realize. I knew the grant was out there. I didn't realize the size of it had doubled. And so it does seem like a good opportunity to roll that into the package and really do this project right. The two final kind of comments I'll make is the Frolic and Rodeo in the preliminary design of this project really tried to tone it down to just the grandstands and the lighting, just absolutely what was necessary. And some of that was strategic in working with the city as we were looking to talk to our legislators and talk about what project was most important. We didn't want to add in at that time to the ask, we need grandstands, we need lighting, we need bathrooms, we need more ADA parking, and we need more accessibility, and all these other things. We really tried to tone it down to what we really needed to be able to put on the rodeo successfully from an economic development standpoint. If we're applying for the park grant, we would be able to add in some of the things that were in that original scope, like the public restrooms, which would serve PYDC. They would serve every event that happens there, including the Frolic and Rodeo. It would really make the grounds much more usable and accessible for people on a park standpoint. So it's still going to have the economic development benefit, but really it's going to have more of that park benefit to it, including continuation of the trail that currently is used that cuts across the property. It's not really improved on. So there's several items that we can add back into the original scope of this project if we get the grant funding that's available and out there. That would really make the project more complete and not have to come back and do those then projects, 3, 5, 10 years down the road when additional funding and matches is received. So I'm leaning towards the grant if the council's comfortable going that way. If not, as a plan B, it'd be nice to have the loan option available to us. And yeah, with that, I'll kind of answer any questions that you've got. I will recognize Brad Pankella this year. Brad is on the Frolic and Rodeo Association Board of Directors, which is the 501c3 or the kind of fundraising, financing side of the Frolic and Rodeo. So separate board from the Frolic and Rodeo Board. It's the Frolic and Rodeo Association Board, and Brad serves on that. So he's here to answer questions on the financing side of things as well for us.
Thank you. Councilor Crocker.
I am in support of the loan. I think, and the sooner we get it going, the prices are not going to get any better. But when I was reading about the park thing at home, could we use that for the skate park? We've got a couple of big park projects that we're looking at, and wondering if we could do that or something else.
Yeah, we talked about the skate park last month. I don't feel like we're ready to go for a successful grant application for the skate park. But this would be a good source to go to next year or the year after. This isn't a well we can go to every year. They're not going to fund City of Philomath projects every year. And so there is maybe a opportunity cost there of applying for these funds for the rodeo grounds, and that it would potentially delay the streetscape funding, by a few years as well. So that is a consideration. I don't know that I would be in favor of submitting an application for both of them this year. I think the timing for the Frolic and Rodeo and the Arena Urban Park project is much better than the timing for the skate park right now. So I hate to not apply for a grant that I think we could get because of a grant that we may go after a year or two from now, which we could still go after a year or two from now. A good question.
Thank you. Councilor McMorrin.
Going off of that, just as far as I know part of what we had talked about with the skate park was that y'all were already juggling 12 million things, and applying for a grant right now might not be the best idea. So I just want to make sure this is a good idea.
Frankly, this is one of the things I'm already juggling.
Okay, sure.
So whether I'm applying for a loan and doing all that paperwork on the loan and processing that, or I'm applying for the grant and doing the paperwork of that, to me, this is one of the balls that's already in the air.
Yeah.
It's a project that's already underway. So I appreciate the concern, and you're absolutely right. I mean, it is a concern that we've got. I would not be in favor of a new loan for a new park that somebody just pitched yesterday, right? But this is an ongoing project. It's already something that we're dealing with.
Okay. And then I guess just on that, I think I agree that sort of the timing for this makes sense. I just thinking back to sort of our discussion about the skate park, where it feels like most of the concerns that were raised about the skate park are not the case with this project, specifically sort of matching funding, community support, like demonstrated interest, and then so on the loan side, the fact that they generate revenue, is important. So it's not the city just forking out money. But yeah.
Okay, Council Andrade.
I am very much in support of accessibility, increasing accessibility at the Frolic grounds and as a park. I am very concerned, however, about the city's relationship with entities that use the Frolic grounds. It is city property, and there are still too many questions for me about how that property is used and how revenue from the events that happen on those properties, like how that is being used, what kinds of policies are in place it feels the city owns the land. Do we own the structures? And what I guess it feels like there's no oversight. The city has no oversight over this property, and it doesn't feel right. And so I would hesitate to do any sort of support any sort of loan or grant request without having those questions answered. From what I understand, when I spoke with Chris on the phone earlier, it sounds like we have some sort of agreement with the Frolic Board, the original one. I think he said that it doesn't sound like it's been updated ever. It rubs me the wrong way. Like, I'm sure nothing untoward is happening. And also, knowing this information, it feels really irresponsible to not have those policies in place, assuming that that is the case. Yeah.
Thank you. And Chris, didn't we sign that policy sometime when I was a city councilor? So that was sometime between 2018 and now.
Yeah, there's a lease agreement. I believe the date on it is 2020, might have been 2019, but it's a lease agreement between the Frolic and Rodeo and the city, where the Frolic and Rodeo leases the property and agrees to do all the maintenance, handle operations. There is a provision there that says any improvements to the ground have to be approved by the city ahead of time. But for the most part, the city does own the property, but we've relied heavily on the Frolic and Rodeo and the volunteers to maintain it and operate it.
And we own all the structures on the property, correct?
All of the structures were deeded to the city, but the lease agreement itself indicates that the structures that were traditionally used by the Frolic are owned by the Frolic. So there's a little discrepancy in who actually owns the facilities. The Frolic and Rodeo has been insuring the facilities. The city has not been insuring them, which is one nice part of the city not claiming ownership in the lease itself. But that needs to be sorted out. With the new grandstands, we'll need to be looking at a new lease agreement or an update to the lease agreement. And that'll be one of the items that we'll need to clarify.
The city will need to own it. The city borrows money.
So he was talking current facilities. Current facilities was questioned. The new facility, the new grandstands, and anything purchased with this funding will be owned by the city, and it'll be included or added to the lease agreement as such, that the city will own it and the Frolic and Rodeo will be part of the lease amount that the Frolic leases from the city each year.
Got it. Thank you.
That
Councilor
will
Causey?
additionally fund from the city.
Couple of questions. One, I wonder if Brad could speak to the groups to use these and the Frolic and Rodeo oversight of those groups. Or
I'm sorry. Can you repeat that, please? I wasn't able to hear. Can you mute yourself, Mayor Jones?
I was just asking if Brad or Chris could speak to the groups that use the grounds and the oversight of those groups. And also a separate question for Chris. I assume that you would sequentially apply for the grant and then the loan, or would you be doing them simultaneously?
Do you want me to answer the second question first, then we can
Go
invite Brad
for
up?
it.
Brad, you will want to sit up here just because the microphone will pick you up better at the table than in the audience. Yeah, so I'm looking for approval for the loan now because the bid's going to go out, and I'd like to know that worst case scenario, we've got a plan B to provide that funding. But we won't actually be pulling or drawing on that loan or doing anything with that loan for several months, probably into April or even May or beyond. So, you know, we've got the money from the state already that we can make draws upon. So yeah, that loan, I'm just looking for authorization for. The grant, we would find out about before we would need to follow up on the loan. And you asked specific to Brad about groups that are using the grounds.
Yeah, I don't know that I'm prepared to answer that question because that really isn't my area of expertise with the frolic. Chris might be better
Okay.
to answer
Thank
that.
Yeah, I could go through the list on the calendar. I actually haven't overseen this the last year or so either, but the sheriff and police foundation, they do the chili feed there, so that's a big one. Furniture Share out of Corvallis uses it annually for a big fundraiser. We've had several weddings. We've had some corporate retreats, graduation parties. It's hosted the senior night a couple of nights or a couple of years. During COVID was a popular spot for that. The Sheriff's Mounted Posse volunteer group, they use the facilities. We've had the K9 units for sheriffs out there using it. The arena itself, we've used for, well, I guess not in the arena itself, but we've used it for dog shows have been there on the grounds. The arena itself, we've had penning competitions. The Northwest Youth Rodeo Association uses it for their finals event each year in August.
The Lions Club.
The Golden Egg.
Yeah, the Easter egg hunt there is there every year. Yeah, thank you. Easter egg hunt is held there annually, has been for the last several years. PYC has 2 ball fields there. That they've been able to build 2 new diamonds, the first 2 new diamonds in the city in 20, 30 years. So there is a lot of use. I mean, I recall looking at last year's calendar, there was something happening at the grounds every weekend.
If you could just speak briefly to the oversight of those groups, how do they schedule? What are they required to do?
We have a formalized schedule of costs that are associated with that. You pay for the half day or for the full day. With each of those reservations, we require proof of insurance. We need to know number of people that are attending, if there's going to be alcohol on site or not, if there needs to be a noise permit issued or not, for amplified sound. We do require that they provide proof of insurance. They have to name the city of Philomath as the property owner and the Frolic and Rodeo as Lucera as an additional insured party. I think that's it. That's a kind of majority. Any volunteers that come onto the property, whether they're a Frolic volunteer, a volunteer at the Lions Club. I should have mentioned Lions Club. Sorry, Lions Club has their annual book sale there every year, and they store their books on site and have their annual garage sale there for a number of years. I don't believe that's continuing as of this year. Any volunteer that comes on the property has to sign a volunteer or participant waiver, and so we, try to protect ourselves that way from anybody who's on the property. But the Frolic does provide just general liability insurance for the property throughout the year. So if somebody does happen to be on the property and they're injured due to negligence on behalf of the Frolic, we've got insurance coverage for that. If you're volunteering or you're participating as a participant, then you sign that waiver and kind of put you on notice that you're participating at your own risk, just like we would do with the city properties. So,
What would that be recognition? Sorry.
We don't know right now.
Councilor Crocker.
First of all, that sounds amazing. Those are all community events that a wide variety in here in our community, which is wonderful. But to your point about whether we do the loan or the grant, my hearing, correct me if I'm wrong, said that if we get the grant, then we can add the bathrooms and do some other things. It seems like that would be above and beyond the loan and so that they would both go hand in hand rather than one or the other. Is that correct? Did I misunderstand that?
No, you're correct. If we were to get authorization to move forward with the grant, we would add some things back into the scope that are more park related to help strengthen the application. If we're not going to use this grant funding for the state parks for that, then it's really going to be the minimum amount we have to borrow, because the Frolic's going to be on the hook to pay that money back through ticket proceeds in the future years and things. So we'd want to minimize that number down, which means some of the extra stuff won't get done. The bathrooms for sure, when it gets done, they'd have to postpone that a few years. Big picture, the real ramification of that is right now, with any grant, you have a match. Right now, we have the match required on this, a 40% match for the state grant. So we have that already. If we say wait 5 years and then the Frolic Road decides, hey, now we want to try to do fundraising to do a bathroom, they're kind of start from scratch. They've got zero money saved up. If they go for a grant, they've got to have a 40% match, or they've got to have matching funds for whatever it is they're doing. So there's definitely some benefits of doing it all as one bigger project. Anytime you get somebody else to pay for it, then you're going to add a few things on there. If you got to pay for it yourself, then you kind of slim things down a little bit. And that's really what it's about. But at the end of the day, adding things onto it makes it a better facility for the community. So the community wins, right? It's not like not just the city or just the Frolic that wins. It's the community that's going to go use the facilities and doesn't have to go in a porta pot. That's going to be the winner.
Thank you. Councilor Nielsen?
I was just wondering, Brad, would you be able to answer, what's the consensus? How does the Frolic feel about this loan situation and to have the responsibility of repayment and the amount of repayment that will be on the signed that? Is the council feeling pretty confident and good about this loan in regards to the grandstands?
Yeah, they are. I guess there are a couple of pieces that they are excited about that. The other piece to it is the support from the community has been very strong. And while we only got our 501c3 recently, like as of the first of the year, the community has really supported it in a very strong way from those that we've approached. And so community funding is going to be significant. And with that, I think that also the Frolic board is very excited, and I think they recognize the timeliness of this, and that putting it off longer is going to cause us to lose support and maybe supporters also in the community, because they want to have this come together quickly. And people who are supporting this year don't want to wait longer in order to do that. And so coming up with those matching funds is really critical, and the board supports that.
Thank you. Councilor McMorrin?
Thank you. To Councilor Andrade's concerns, I guess I would be curious if you would be able to enumerate exactly the things you're concerned about, because I think this actually is kind of a great opportunity to evaluate. Like, if we're already, renegotiating the lease agreement with this and everything, sure, let's talk about all of it, So, I don't see it as a reason not to do this. I see it as like a sort of a folds in really well with what we're doing. Of if we don't do this, we're not really, there's no reason to reopen the lease agreement. But since we're already doing that, that's what we want to put in there. It seems like a good chance to. And then I guess for you, sort of going off of that, just how confident is the Frolic in your ability to repay the loan in those installments, if that is the direction it goes?
Yeah, well, so I will tell you that my primary responsibility is in sponsorship and fundraising. So it's in bringing money in, although I am aware of what our financials look like. And considering that we're doubling the seating capacity, we know that that is going to generate significant income. And just without that, we still would be very close to being able to repay that on an annual basis with our current facility. So we feel very confident.
Thank you.
Can I make a motion?
Yes, Councilor Nielsen.
Okay, I move to approve, let me get my right page. Resolution 24-03, authorizing the issuance and negotiated sale of a full faith and credit obligation in an aggregate principal amount not to exceed $500,000, designating an authorized representative, authorizing execution and delivery of a financing agreement and note and related matters. Is that wrong?
I want to be careful. That's the old,
Oh,
that's the resolution that's in the packet,
that is
which we,
changed.
probably, yeah,
Okay.
we have substituted that out.
Okay, so is there a new one? What should I amend?
I don't have the new one.
Oh.
I've seen it, but
Resolution 24-03, version 2.
Version 2. Okay, we're going to amend that to version 2.
Is all the rest of that still okay? Or should we just say
Everything
everything?
is much simpler.
yeah,
Okay.
it should be, it should be a little more general. That one I think is a little too specific to this particular financing company.
Okay.
And the new one is a little more general and would allow a loan from a different place if.
I can pull it up to
Okay.
share. Give me just a half second.
And you are looking for a motion regarding the grant and a motion regarding the loan, correct? Possibly.
Yeah, I would still like to get both, because if we're not able, if we apply for the grant, if you direct me to apply for the grant and we don't get it, we still may need the loan to fall back on. So I am looking for approval for
I'll
both.
do another motion then. I'll do a motion.
You want to do the other one first?
Councilor Nielsen.
Right. I move, can I read this one or is this one wrong too?
Yeah.
I move to direct the city manager to submit a local government grant program application. Second.
Got it.
Your hand went up with the voice file.
And I was 5 minutes ago, so.
No.
Did I get a second?
Yeah,
Yes,
from
you
two
did.
people from several.
Okay, so motion made by Councilor Nielsen, seconded by Councilor McMorrin. Any further discussion? Councilor Andrade.
I would like, Brad, if you could repeat what you had said in response to Councilor McMorrin's question. I was processing something else and realized that I didn't quite catch all of your answer. And I believe the question had something to do with like, what did it have something to do with what funds you have currently that makes you sure that you'll be able to pay off the loans by the selected time?
More,
Was
would
that
you like to repeat your question?
Sure. Yeah. My question was just sort of how confident is the Frolic and Rodeo in their ability to repay the loans in the installments noted, and sort of what's their plan for that?
Right. So, what we know is we sell out every Friday night and Saturday night and have for the last several years. What we don't know is how many people we turn away. We assume it's a significant number based on how early we sell out on those dates. So our expectation is that we will hopefully fill the capacity, our new facility, which will double our seating. With our current financials, we have been for the last 5 years or so significantly operating in the black and have a significant amount of funds that carry. So with those funds and with our expected, well, not expected, but our larger seating capacity with the new facility, we're confident that we'll be able to meet that loan amount.
To
This is
clarify,
speculation. Does that make sense?
Yeah,
the
thank
last part, I had a question about you said you're operating in the black, but you have significant funds for carryover. Can you elaborate on what that means? I'm not much of a business person.
Well, without bringing our financials in to show you, and I don't think that we make those public, we have dollars such that are maybe not enough to make the current loan. However, with our increased seating capacity, we don't expect paying the loan will be an issue.
Thank you. And as a follow-up question, as a 501c3, now that you're a 501c3, I didn't realize you weren't before. Does that require the board to put financials public, to make those public?
You know, I don't know the answer to that. Someone here might. I will address part of that though, and that is there are two boards for the Frolic. One of them is for the Frolic itself, which is an incorporated board. The other one is an association. And there has to be a separation between those two because a rodeo can't be a 501c3. And so an association was established in order to meet that criteria.
Thank you. I didn't realize that.
Councilman Moore.
Jim might have a more technical answer than me, but just for the question about financials being public as a 501c3, it's not like the city where like our entire budget is public. There's certain tax disclosures they'll have to do around like their total revenue and then like their highest compensated employees. But I'm assuming you have no compensated employees, so
I feel like it.
so it's not like us where like every line item is public and every discussion about every line item is public. It's more just sort of the bottom line is public. So it's not the same level of transparency as a government, but it's more than a private company.
Thank you.
Any further questions in regards to, or comments in regards to the motion? Seeing none, all in favor, please raise your hand and say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed, please raise your hand and say nay.
Nay.
Okay, so motion carries 5-1. No, yeah, 5-1. Okay, thank you very much. And did you want, Chris, you're going to show some information about the grant or the loan?
This is the updated resolution 2303. 24-03. Did I say that wrong?
Thank you. Is there, can you scroll to the recommended motion?
And the motion would just be to approve resolution 24-03, and you could read the title.
I have a question. Did we
Go
have
ahead.
a motion and amendment on the table already? What are we doing with that?
The motion for
The motion that was made for this, but the longer version was
I think it didn't get a
said. We didn't, okay. Okay.
So I will make a motion then.
Councilman Nielsen?
I move to approve resolution 2403, sorry, a resolution of the city of Philomath, Oregon, authorizing a full faith and credit borrowing and related matters.
Thank you. So we have a motion made by Councilor Nielsen and seconded by Councilor Kazi. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor, please raise your hand and say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries unanimously. So thank you very much. Appreciate that. So thank you, Brad. Thank you for being here.
Yeah. You got a seat.
Yeah, thanks for being here. Okay. So next on the agenda, we're going to go back into the order. Let's go ahead and, Lieutenant Gursky's going to stick around for the entire meeting anyway, so we're going to we'll keep that towards the last agenda item, right? So, anyway, let's go ahead and talk about Philomath Municipal Code, Chapter 12.10, Parks Amendments.
And Kevin Fear, Finance Director, he's on the Zoom call if there's any specific questions. But this is looking at update to the code. It'll be by way of ordinance. So we're happy to answer your questions, and then when we're ready, give the thumbs up and we can do a roll call vote.
Okay.
Kevin, do you want to give a little summary?
First of all, Kevin, thank you for being here tonight.
Certainly. Public Works started taking over the reservations for the parks in July, this last July. And it kind of made sense to update the park code as well as some of the rules for the changes of insurance needs and a few other little minor changes. The city attorney's office has looked it over and approved it all, and it's before you tonight.
Thank you, Kevin. Appreciate it. Councillor Kazi.
Thank you. Just a general question. I'm not necessarily suggesting that this should be included, but I noticed that drones are not addressed in there. These, is that by intent or do they fall under something else?
Oh, we had this conversation.
We did.
We had a drone discussion.
Maybe it was when I was gone, was it?
Permit for a drone.
Well, I think we don't have that right.
I'm sorry, can you speak up a little and or not talk over each other? It's hard to hear because Zoom cuts out the audio when multiple people talk.
Yeah, I don't believe it's in here. If we were to talk about language on drones, I don't know I would limit it to the parks. It would be more of a general nuisance, and we would have that in a different section of the code. So if that's something that we want to take a look at, maybe put that as a reminder for here in a couple weeks when we talk about strategic plan and prioritization of things. But as far as the parks go, it didn't get included to how we treat drones specifically in the park, so it's not included in this section of the code. We could look at it in the nuisance abatements or the nuisance portion of the code, which is
I
separate.
think from what I remember, we had a drone fly over the treatment plant area so we could get and over Marys River Park so we could get an idea of the area of the camas bulbs and where they were located. And it seems to me, it's been several years ago now that we did it, but it seemed like we had to get special permission to fly that because it's so close to the police station, and it's a Jim or Lieutenant Gursky might be able to answer that a little bit better, but I think that's one of the issues at Marys River Park anyway.
Thank you. Councilor McMorrin.
Like a Philomath legal thing, but just I also know we are apparently close enough to the Corvallis airport for that to sometimes create restrictions. I know this from flying a drone. But yeah, so I don't think we have anything about drones, but there may be other.
We don't have anything about drones. There are
external.
There are external things, both FAA and there's size and power,
right,
and weight, and so some require a license to operate at all.
Right.
Thank you. Any additional comments, questions? Being none, I'd certainly entertain a motion.
No motion. It's the roll call vote.
Oh, I'm sorry. Let's go ahead and start with the roll call. Thank you.
Actually, before you do the vote, I have one job. I'm gonna read the title.
What we pay him for.
That's right.
That's right. So this is ordinance number 882, an ordinance amending Philomath Municipal Code 12.10 parks regarding reservations and usage rules.
Okay.
Thank you.
Your votes. Mayor Jones.
Yes.
Councilor Andrade.
Yes.
Councilor Crocker.
Yes.
Councilor Kazi.
Yes.
Councilor McMorrin.
Yes.
Councilor Nielsen.
Yes.
Okay. Excellent. Motion carries unanimously. Thank you very much for that.
Thank you.
Appreciate you being here, Kevin. Feel free to take the rest of the evening off.
I'll hang around for a little while.
I
I mean, getting close to what, 11 o'clock your time, 8 o'clock.
Yes, it
here.
is.
I still got about 30 minutes before bedtime, so I'll hang around.
Got it. You're trying to compete with Lieutenant, aren't you?
Yep.
Who can be the last one in standing? All right. Let's go ahead and talk about the chief of police appointment. Chris?
I'm just thrilled to be able to recommend to the city council an approval to my appointment of our next chief of police. Lieutenant Gursky has been with the department a long time. He's very well respected. It's not uncommon for me to be at other meetings with other city managers and have us talking about our chiefs of police and everyone else, and Ken Elwer and Dave Gursky's name come up often. They're very well respected. They're very active in the state association. They're very well known throughout the accreditation program and that process. And regionally, they are looked to for their advice and their knowledge. And I'm just thrilled that Lieutenant Gursky is interested in the position. I kind of got through that formality earlier this week, or earlier today, actually, maybe last week, on making sure everything was lined up there. But I just can't say enough great things about Lieutenant Gursky. I will save some of it for future dates, but at this point, as I put in the memo, the city council does have the authority through the city charter to approve appointments to department heads as well as dismissals from department heads, which is what the chief of police is, serves essentially as that department head of the chief of police of the police department. So super excited to be able to make the appointment. I won't make Lieutenant Gursky give a speech at this point. Again, that will come at a future date, but just looking for the council's blessing on that. It'll be effective April 3rd, which is the day after Ken Rubin's retirement. So we won't be but for a moment without a police chief, and we'll get that started. So I'm just excited for him to come on, but happy to answer your questions or concerns that the council has about the process.
Thank you, Chris. And the in the agenda items summary, it didn't actually mention that Chief Rubin was retiring. So you're just can you clarify that situation?
We talked about that, and the memo had already gone out. So Chief Rubin been with us for 11 years now. He will be retiring as of April the 2nd. I believe that date's right, April the 2nd. So we're having a ceremony / party for him and his family and coworkers on the 3rd. So make sure you get that pencil on your calendar. I believe April 3rd at 3 o'clock. It'll be at the museum. And so yeah, definitely get that on your calendars for now. We'll be doing a nice special tribute for him and what he's deserved, and the accolades that come with 11 years of service for Philomath and years Department of Justice before that, and City of Corvallis before that, and California before that. So he's long time coming. He's been a great chief, and the only good part about losing Ken is that we get David. I say that with all sincerity. We're really fortunate to have David staying on.
Is David's humor any better than Chief's?
Does he what?
Is Lieutenant Gursky's humor any better than the Chief's?
A couple might get by you, but he's pretty quick. Yes, pretty quick.
We might need to have him do a stand-up comedy routine here for a moment. Councilor Nielsen.
Yeah, well, having had experience working with Lieutenant Gursky in our police committee, it's been a real joy. He's very informative and courteous and respectful and really very skilled at his job as a lieutenant in our department. And I'm looking forward to him taking over the position, and hopefully we'll be there for a long time, Lieutenant Gursky, not a quick little flip thing. Hope you're there for a very long time in our city. We would appreciate that. Oh, do we still get to do the chili?
Yes.
Okay. We still have the chili cook-off, just letting you know.
Councilor Crocker.
I agree with all of that. Is there a reason why we wait till April 3rd and not do it on April 2nd so we don't have any lapse, like a 12-hour lapse?
I don't want to have two chiefs on the same day. That would be trouble.
Fight.
5 p.m. on the 2nd.
Sure. I mean, it seems that, It'd be prudent to have one in place. Always.
We will. Ken,
It does seem that many cities go without a police chief for an extended period of time while they're looking for them, right? Doesn't have to be back to back. For
We'll be good. He's still the lieutenant while he's not the chief, so
yeah, he's still got control.
in good hands.
Councilor Kazi.
Approve the appointment of David Gursky to serve as Philomath's chief of police beginning April 3, 2024.
And I'll second that.
So we have a motion made by Councilor Kazi, second by Councilor Nielsen. Any further discussion, comments, questions? Kevin got in a, he's gonna compete for it. Kevin?
No, I've worked with Dave, Lieutenant Gursky, for almost 18 years. Some of the guys in Public Works have been there even longer and worked with Dave longer than that. He's always been a team player with Public Works and everybody. And he's got 100% support from the Public Works Department. Moving up, we're all glad to see it's an internal move. Somebody that's coming from inside the city, moving up to the chief of police in that position, and we're thrilled for Dave, and he has our full backing.
Thank you. Councilor McWarren.
This is a cool moment because I feel like for my whole life I've known this as Bailey's dad. So it's cool now to be doing this. But I also think, just speaking to, he's very involved in the community and has a good relationship with folks and with the schools and with young folks. So of that, given I was in the same class as his daughter, but I'm also very pleased to see this in our packet.
Okay, Councilor Nielsen.
Does this mean we'll be hiring a lieutenant will that leave an opening for the department that we'll have to be hiring for?
It's a great question. So, Lieutenant, you want to come up to the table and just give a little bit? We won't go into a lot of detail, but I think it is a fair question about the organization, what that'll look like.
So with this, we would look to restructure our organization a little bit with regards to supervision. And rather than have one lieutenant's position, we would have two sergeant's positions, one for graveyard, so there's some more oversight during the evening hours, and as well as one sergeant position for the day shift crew as well. So that would kind of split our resources up a little bit, and I think it's a long time coming.
All right, thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
The other benefit to that is it allows us again to kind of promote from within for both of those positions, as opposed to trying to look maybe outward for somebody that was ready to step into that full lieutenant position. Don't feel like we're quite there with personnel yet, and the benefit of having a sergeant around night and day will be huge for the department. So
And
good
you said,
benefits all the way around.
to clarify, you said promote from within, so we're
Yes.
just going to be working there. Okay.
Councilor Crocker.
Want to support the concept of you being the person, because everybody knows you in the town and respects you. And a new person coming in wouldn't have that and may not ever have that. I mean, it takes a while around here. So this is so ideal in so many levels, but thank you for being willing to do this and being here for this. It's very special.
Feels like you ought to have to change his first name to Ken.
It's my legal name.
Thank you. Any further comments, questions, discussion? Councilor Kazi.
Will your rank change when you are chief?
Yes.
You will be just chief, or are you?
Yes, so it'll just be chief of police.
Thank you. Okay, seeing no further comments, all in favor, please raise your hand, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Okay, motion carries unanimously. Congratulations. I'm not going to congratulate you yet. I'll wait till April 3rd, but thank you very much for being willing to serve with us. Really appreciate you.
We will. We'll do a formal ceremony. Like I said, we wanted to get things rolling, make sure we knew where we were headed, but we'll have a ceremony and we'll get that out there. We don't want to overshadow Ken's retirement by any means, but yeah, look for information coming forward. There'll be 2 separate events. We're not gonna have this. Yeah, more than likely it'll happen within a few days or maybe within the week or so of taking over. We'll do a formal ceremony.
Thank you. Excellent. Thank you. With that, we can move to council reports. Does anybody have anything they'd like to report out? Councilor McMorrin.
Well, this is a wonderful segue, because I just wanted to report that I did a ride along with the police department last Saturday with Officer Thurman, which was very informative, and I learned a lot, and I'm very grateful for Chief Rubin and kind of helping make that happen, and then Officer Thurman for spending 3 hours with me on a Saturday evening, and sort of getting, his take on his job and on the department and everything. And then also Counselor Lehman and I spent a couple hours with Kevin and Gary in Public Works and visited their various facilities, sort of how they operate, which was also very informative. So it made me very grateful, as always, to get to be a part of this and to see the work that our wonderful city staff does every day that I feel like a lot of people take for granted. So I just wanted to thank both of those departments for hosting us.
Thank you. And I'll just remind everyone that opportunity is open to anyone. If you want, you can reach out to Chris and make that happen. Any further reports? Councilor Andrade, that's your hand up.
Yeah. A couple things. First, the Black History Month event that we had last week with Zena and Dr. Thompson happened. I heard it was wonderful. I unfortunately could not be there. I've heard nothing but wonderful things, and that there was a great turnout. Christopher, did you want to say anything? Thank you so much for being there to be able to speak about, by the way.
Yeah, I just will reiterate that it was,
Councilor McMorrin.
I don't want to say pleasantly surprised, but I was a little pleasantly surprised with the turnout and how great the event went. I think there were probably 30 or so people there.
44.
Oh my God, I wasn't counting. That's wonderful. 44 people there. And it all pretty much went off without a hitch. The speakers were wonderful. And I think we all learned a lot. It was great to kind of meet, more community members and just kind of mingle and chat a little bit afterwards. So, yeah, I think it was one of the best city events I've been to in a while. So a big thanks to the volunteers that made it happen. I kind of emceed it, but that's all the work I did. So big thanks to Rose and Zena, Jessica, and everyone else who did actual work to do it.
Thank you.
Yeah, a big thank you to everyone. And then on that note, we also have another Black History Month event coming up next Thursday at the high school. It's the film screening of Buffalo Soldiers, and it's at 7 p.m. on the 22nd. And then the final thing was that I wanted to report to council that I know the council directed both the mayor and myself to reach out to the Native tribes here to ask about their support of a petition in favor of Indigenous Peoples Day as a paid day off and day off of school. Unfortunately, after asking the mayor a couple times to work on this together, I was not included in that email. I was BCC'd instead. So I just wanted to let you know that that's what happened, and that the mayor is working on that communication. So.
Yeah, sorry if there's any misunderstanding. I never had any impression that that email was going to come from you and I. Like, and I
That's not
mentioned to you
true
that
because I definitely spoke to you at at one of our council meetings and said, I know that you're not necessarily going to take my words, and that it was going to be a collaborative thing.
and I'll just correct the situation from my understanding. And you asked me to include you. You asked me if you could see what I was going to send. I never intended to get your authorization for what I was going to send. As I mentioned,
wasn't
I'm sorry, I'm talking.
I apologize. I thought you were finished. There's a lag on Zoom.
No. So I never intended, I have existing relationships with all these folks. I was not intending to ask your permission for the language I was going to use. So.
And to clarify, I was not asking for authorization or permission. I was asking to work with you so that we could meet with people if possible and to get their thoughts. So anyway, I just wanted the council to know that I'm not part of this.
Thank you. Councilor McMorrin.
One final just reminder is the Samaritan Awards are this Thursday at PHS at 6. Just look on the website.
I think it's 6:30.
But just, they're coming up. So I hope to see you all there. I met with some of the folks from the chamber on Friday, and I think they're looking forward to it. They seemed a little stressed out with all the logistical details, so I think it would just be wonderful if we could be there and support, and not support the chamber, but make sure we're supporting. I mean, we should support the chamber, but also support the volunteers and the wonderful community members when we celebrated.
I have 6:30 is what I have.
Okay. The authority has spoken.
And Chris, you have your hand up too? You want to give a report? Or I see Councilor Crocker first.
I was just gonna, we do have a table reserved for the city. We paid a little extra to have a table with our name on it. So when you get there, look for that. Primarily, we want to have a spot for Candy Cates and her husband. Ruth Post and her husband are going to be there as well to make sure they've got a spot in there. So feel free to join them at that table. If that table fills up, then you'll just need to find another spot. But we did at least have the one table reserved to get there early enough. That'll have the city of Falmouth sign on it somewhere.
Do you need RSVP for that?
Just show up, get there early, first come, first served, or seated.
Are there going to be any quorum issues?
Not for these events. Just don't talk any city business.
Yeah.
And do we know how many of our nominations were chosen, or is that privileged information?
I know that Candy is. I don't know if I don't know how they do that.
They don't release it. They'll let you know on Thursday night.
I'm not sure what the leadership at the chamber has changed over, and I'm not sure if I've seen the email, but I don't know if that was just because we nominated or if they just kind of let everybody know. I don't know, and I don't want to spoil anything.
I think the folks would stay on the DL until the day of.
Yeah. Thank you. Chelsea?
I just have one more thing to add. The Park Advisory Board minutes from January 24th are in the packet, and they did their annual review of the items on the strategic plan, their park master plan, and other projects that have kind of come up or been talked about. So they did work really hard on going through that, and I just want to make sure that you all saw that before the strategic plan update meeting.
Thank you. Councilor Kazi.
I just wanted to share, I had shared this previously with a couple of other counselors, but after the meeting in which we discussed the skate park and reviewed the drawings, the next day I happened to be in downtown Corvallis and walked past the shop of the young man who spoke here that he has a skateboard shop on Monroe, I think, or Madison. Anyway, I recognized him, although I don't know what his name is. And I went in and I said, "You're the guy." And he was so excited about this. He had the drawings sitting on his counter. And he said, "I've been chatting this up with everyone who comes in." And people will travel here to use it. I said, "Well, did you like, did you like the design? And he said he really did, because he didn't really express his opinion one way or another. But in closing, he also said, you know, it's so great to work with you guys because you actually do things. Corvallis just never seems to get anything done. Anyway, I don't necessarily agree with that. I'm sure that Corvallis gets things done, but
It doesn't always feel like we
It's
do.
nice that we do.
Yeah, I know.
it was fun talking to him. So
You're muted. Can I talk?
Yeah, I'm Councilor
That's
Nielsen.
okay, thanks. How are we doing on finding a code enforcement officer? The reason I ask is because in reading over the survey results, there were several comments made about code violations in our city that people were concerned about according to the survey. Have we hired someone? I'm able to ask that?
One of you like to talk about that?
We'll let our HR,
I can tell you that the posting for code enforcement is currently not on our website, so I can tell you that much.
Okay.
Chris wants to talk about some of the plans for that moving forward.
yeah, when's your police committee meeting?
It's tomorrow, and it's
It is, and it's on the agenda?
It's on the agenda.
Okay, that's good for me then.
We're looking at ways that we can do code enforcement. We've not been successful at getting an applicant, even an applicant, so we're looking at maybe ways of achieving that same service without needing a part-time employee there. So we do have some newer officers, so Lieutenant Gursky's looking at that, so he'll be discussing about the police committee tomorrow and some options that are available.
Thank you.
Okay.
Excellent. Chris, did you have anything to report out?
No, the full management report's in there. Appreciate my department heads taking time to get that filled out. I'm happy to answer any other specific questions on there. But if not, things are busy. A lot going on in the city. I mean, I agree. There was a lot in that survey that was very telling of things that we're working on. Apparently, there's some big project on Main Street, tearing up the roads or something. That would go event.
Years and years. Apparently.
You know, I think overall, you know, I'll end on this, I guess. I had a college professor, economics teacher, that used to say that for every economist, there's an equal and opposite economist. I believe that's true with economists and lawyers. Apparently, it's also true with residents, because for every resident that says we need more places to live and more housing, we also had ones that say we need to stop growing, we're growing too fast, and we need more housing. And every time somebody said that we need more park space and more trails, we had somebody else saying stick to the basics, quit expanding parks and trails. So, you know, again, not a lot of surprises there. Everybody has an opinion, but I did make note that there are several things that were noted as concerns that we are dealing with, that we're aware of. We're working towards those things. They take time. You know, we wish we could always snap our fingers and things would be done. But with public process and public financing and all those other things, they do take a little bit of time to get through. But I'm very, very much encouraged by this city council that is working together well and really knocking things off of the strategic plan. And in 2 weeks, we'll meet at a work session at 5:30. I encourage you to, again, go through the survey results, look back over the last year or two at some of your notes. And I do plan to have as much of an open forum as we can during that work session for you to tell me and tell each other what are the priorities that you're seeing, and is the current strategic plan in line with that? And if not, let's get it aligned. And so objectives that we want to achieve, specific action items that we want to do. Let's bring up, I do not anticipate we're going to have the entire update done in an hour-and-a-half session, but I am hoping that we can, you know, fix any misalignments and help prioritize those things that really are important to the community that you've heard from through the survey, through your own interactions with folks that you interact with. Very much encouraged. I think the city's in really good shape and headed in the right direction on taking on a lot of these big issues that are important to the community. So thank you for all of your continued work. It's much appreciated.
Thank you all. Councilor Crocker.
I just am excited that Chelsea's going to put that all online so that the residents can read, because we tend to think that our opinion is always right. And when they read the variety, I think that will be very educational for them and really a great plan of visibility. So that's good.
Thank you. And I'll just end on fact that I'm in Washington, D.C. right now and meeting with all the tribal leaders that are here and also with our federal legislators. And if there are things that, any messages you would recommend that I take to our federal legislators when I meet with them, I'd welcome the email. So thank you all for being here tonight and have a great evening. We'll adjourn the meeting.
Thanks, Kevin.
Thank you.